our parent company, or our advertisers.
Where in the world is Congressman Colin Peterson? It's recess, and he's nowhere to be found. On Tuesday Night Show, I told you that Congressman Colin Peterson, a person who's been a congressman for over 20 years now, will not come on this show and answer the tough questions, the questions that you and me, we the people, want answers to. In fact, I told you that he and his staff think so little of you, his constituents, they won't even return an email to us. I mean, at least Senator Heitkamp's people get back to us via email and tell you that, oh, I'm too busy for those pesky, bothersome taxpayers that voted for me. So after Tuesday Night Show, I came into work Wednesday morning. My phone rings and a person says, is this Chris Berg? I say, yes, it is. They say, well, since Congressman Peterson's too afraid to come on your show and answer the tough questions, I'll answer them for him. I said, great. Maybe this will get him to come on the show. And that person that called me is now with us live from D.C., Alleigh Marré. She's the regional press secretary for the National Republican Congressional Committee. Alleigh, thanks so much for joining us from D.C. Here's the first thing. Look, Congressman Peters has been doing this for over 20 years. He's a farm bill expert. I'm not. In your opinion, why in the world won't this guy come on the show?
That's news to me. I have no idea. I mean, Congressman Peterson talks a lot about how people in the district know him. They're proud of him. They understand what he stands for. So if that were really the case, I don't think it's that difficult to come on your show and talk to you about those things.
I mean, honestly, he would embarrass me when it comes to the farm bill. But let's get on to this. You recently created an attack ad on him. Obviously, he's up for election in 2014. I want to play this attack ad that you guys have created and then also share with you some comments. Our local newspaper, The Forum, basically did a lapdog editorial piece about how great Congressman Peterson is. I want to share with you some quotes out of that, but first let's get to this attack ad that you guys created.
Growing up on a farm, you just learn the value of taking care of your land. Regulations are completely out of control to the point that I truly believe that they absolutely will jeopardize most family farms. Whether it's St. Paul or Washington, they just can't seem to get their act together. After 20 years in Congress, Colin Peterson has lost touch. His vote on cap and trade is something that definitely hurt farmers. With all due respect, it's time for Colin Peterson to go.
The National Republican Congressional Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Alleigh, I'm going to get to the impact of cap and trade on farmers in a moment. First, here's what our local newspaper had to say about your attack, and I want to give you a chance to respond. The Forum editorial board said Peterson should welcome the NRCC's attack ad. It seems desperate. It is shallow, political boilerplate. Those are some pretty strong words, you say?
They are. I mean, look, the only thing that's desperate about this is Colin Peterson trying to tell the people of the 7th District that he's got their best interest in heart. The fact of the matter is Colin Peterson not only voted for cap and trade, but he was one of the biggest lobbyists in getting all the necessary votes for Nancy Pelosi and President Obama in order for cap and trade to pass. So much so that President Obama even personally thanked him in his statement for all that he was able to do to bring the Democrats across for it to pass. So, you know, you saw it in that ad. There's a 7th District farmer who's saying, hey, this hurts us. So I think that's really the only thing that's desperate about this ad.
But I think most people would say, look, cap and trade's not going to get past this point. I mean, that is on such a back burner with immigration, all the budget deficit issues. So what does, in your opinion, cap and trade really do to the local farmer?
Well, I mean, I think it's bigger than the policy. You know, you bring up that maybe at this point, you know, something doesn't get through, but it shows you where Colin Peterson is as a legislator, where his heart is, and what he does when he thinks people aren't looking. The fact of the matter is he's lost touch, and he takes the 7th District for granted, and I think that's, you know, demonstrated by the fact that he won't come on the show. He doesn't feel like he's accountable to voters. He doesn't want to, you know, come on the show and answer the tough questions, and he thinks he can just waltz in and win the election. And part of the reason we've started running ads so early this cycle is to prove to him that that's just not going to fly.
So it's one thing to say that, hey, maybe you're out of touch with your district. It's another thing to find a candidate that can actually win in the 7th District. We ran Lee Byberg in 2010 and 2012. Now, in 2010, a feather in Congressman Peterson's hat, he did vote against Obamacare. 2010, a lot of Republicans took over seats, and yet Lee Byberg lost by 18 points in 2010 and then 25 points in 2012. That's abysmal. So it's one thing to say, hey, Congressman Peterson's not in touch, but who do you put up against him?
It is, and it's a challenge, and it's not something that, you know, we're right now anybody's pretending to have the answer for, but it's early. I mean, we're well over a year away from the election, and right now it's August recess, so there's plenty of boots on the ground looking for who there is grassroots support for, and we're out there actively recruiting, looking for someone that the people want to have replace Colin Peterson. But you bring up a good point with, you know, with Obamacare, and while he may have taken the right vote for his district in that, I mean, just earlier this week, you know, he was on NPR asking for a raise in the gas tax. And that's just something that nobody can afford right now. The economy's stagnant, people are underemployed, you know, people need jobs. And raising gas taxes is just not how that's going to happen. I
want to play a clip. We actually have a clip from that NPR interview with Congressman Peterson saying that, yes, he supports raising the gas tax. I want to play this first and then get some comments from you, Alleigh, so we can play this clip about the gas tax, please.
Congressman Peterson, do you believe in raising the gas tax to bring in more money for transportation projects?
I've supported it.
And do you have a sense of how much to raise it by?
Well, I think that I think it was Congressman Overstar had a bill. I think it was to raise it 5 cents, the federal level. It hadn't been raised for a long time, I don't think.
Right.
You know, so you know, that's part of the solution. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to deal with the backlog we've got in transportation.
So here's a gentleman that, correct me if I'm wrong, Alleigh, will always come out and pound the drum of, look, I'm here to fight for the lower class, the middle class, that's what I do. And yet a gas tax, it would be one of the most regressive, hurtful taxes on the lower and middle class. I mean, I hadn't heard this soundbite until someone had sent it to me. Now that I have, I was shocked. I just want to give you a chance to comment, and him saying, hey, I'm going to fight for the middle class, but it's the most regressive tax out there.
Right, and I think the bottom line here is it's very, Colin Peterson is kind of say one thing, do another. You know, he promises to bring, you know, however many people forward on the farm bill. He's unable to deliver that. But then we go back to something like cap and trade, and he had no problem bringing the right number of Democrats to the table. So he really picks and chooses, you know, where he wants to fight for what he believes in, and it's not always what he says, and that's, you know, demonstrative by this comment about the gas tax. And you're right, it is a huge tax on the middle class, and he even went so far as to say that I don't think 5 cents is enough. You know, when we're seeing unemployment and underemployment rates where they are, that's not something people can afford when they're driving to and from interviews.
Alleigh, I've got 30 seconds. I want to give you the last word in 30 seconds, please.
I would just say, you know, it's been well over 20 years, and it's time for Colin Peterson to come home. And he's lost touch with his district. He's unable to come on the show and be accountable to the voters and the people who have questions, who voted for him and sent him there. And we look forward to helping the 7th District identify a very, you know, valid alternative to Colin Peterson's Democratic ways.
Alleigh Marré, Regional Spokesperson, Communications Director for the NRCC. Thanks so much for calling me, because maybe this will help get Congressman Peterson to return our emails and come on this show. Or maybe we'll have you back on in the future and you can speak for him again. Thanks again. Alleigh Marré from Washington, D.C. Stay with us. We're going to get to your feedback when we come back. As always, be sure and join our conversation. Go to the website 630pov.com. Email us, text us. We'll be right back.
The investment